My name is Nkechi Nana, and I'm honored to be your anchor for today's program, commemorating World Environment Day 2026. It's a moment of reflection on the health of our planet and what we're doing about it. And it's fitting as a regulatory body at the heart of Nigeria's upstream oil and gas sector that we recognize the moment and we contribute meaningfully to it. Now, the global theme for this year is urbanization and climate change, building resilient cities for a sustainable future. Bringing it back home, the Commission has framed today's conversation around advancing sustainability and climate action in upstream oil and gas operations. We have a rich program today, so I implore you, stay engaged, listen, take notes, and be ready to participate. Let's begin. We'll start with the third stanza of the national anthem. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3.
O God of all creation, grant this our one request. Help us to build a nation where no man is oppressed, and so with peace and plenty, Nigeria may be blessed.
Amen. Please be seated. Before we dive in, I'd like to invite Mr. Uzo Kenneth, who will take us through the safety brief.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Professor Uzo Kenneth. I'll be representing my CSO. He's having meetings somewhere here. You're all welcome to Asaga Hall. Asaga Hall is one of our big halls in the hotel. And in Asaga Hall here, we have our convenience. We have two convenience here. One is just by the door, and the other one is just at the back of the door. That is for the VIP, in case you have VIP, and you have a waiting room there for a VIP. There's little issues that we used to encounter when having this kind of programs, which is intruders, those ones coming to target your belongings. So for that, please, if you don't know anyone sitting close to you, you're not familiar with the person, or he's not among the meeting here, please kindly inform the security so we can walk the person out immediately. It's very important. And we urge you also to please put your belongings close to you, your car keys and your gate pass. It's very, very important. Please. We have two muster points here in the hotel. We have one at the entrance of the gate. Then you have the other one, which is at the back gate. But for now, we're having construction going on there. We're not making use of the muster point. I will assure you that all our fire service equipment are well serviced and up to date. So we don't have to bother about that. You have police officers, mobile police, armed police officers around. You have like 2 or 3 of them. You can see them at the gate when you're coming. So you are covered in case of any external attack. For our Muslim brothers and sisters that will going for or having the ablution, please, you are not allowed to do ablution at the convenience because of the water may be spilled over the floor. So we have a place that we are reserved for such practice, which is just at by the car park, or you can ask any of their staff where you can do your ablution. Please, you have water there. You can go there and do your prayers and do your ablution. So lastly, if we have limited car park here, because of the construction going on at the other side of the hotel, in case you come with a car, your car is safe. If you are asked to park outside the gate, please, we will make sure that your car will be safe. We have officers there that will monitor your cars, and we have other operatives that will make sure your car are safe. So in case you come and ask you to park your car outside, please just obey. Your car will be safe. Thank you so much. Have a peaceful deliberation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kenneth. Safety first, always. Now, Nigeria's upstream oil and gas sector has made a turn. At our peak, routine flaring was at about 90% of total gas produced, dropped to 40%, and today it's just below 8%. The Commission has been deliberate when it comes to low-emission turbines, facility retrofits, low NOx burners built into new designs, a sharp decline when it comes to spills since the operationalization of the host community section of the Petroleum Industry Act. And so when you ask, what is NUPRC doing when it comes to sustainability, climate, environmental protection, it's quite a lot, and that's what you're going to be hearing about during the course of today, and also what we're going to do next. It's now my pleasure to welcome a distinguished professional of the Commission to give the welcome remarks this morning, a man whose work sits between regulation and environmental stewardship, the Executive Commissioner for Health, Safety, Environment, and Community, Captain John Tonlaha.
Good morning, CCMA. Good morning, Executive Commissioners. Good morning, dear colleagues. Permit me to stand on the existing protocol as I bring you this remark for this event. The CC, the Executive Commissioner, dear colleagues, industry leaders, representatives of our partner organization, environmental advocates, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is a profound honor to stand before you today as we mark the occasion of World Environment Day 2026. As a regulator within Nigerian dynamic upstream oil and gas industry, the day presents a critical opportunity to reflect on our progress, acknowledge our challenges, and recommend ourselves to the principle of environmental stewardship. The upstream oil and gas industry in Nigeria, while a vital engines of economic growth, inherently carries significant environmental risk from exploration, drilling, to development and production activities in this sector impact the land, water, air quality, and also affect the biodiversity. As regulators, our primary mandate is to ensure that these operations are conducted within the utmost regard for environmental integrity. This involves setting stringent standard, enforcing compliances through rigorous monitoring and inspections, and imposing penalties for any breach and where they needed. Over the years, Nigeria has made significant stride in the regulatory framework for the oil and gas sector. We have seen a notable improvement in the implementation of environmental impact assessment, EIA, for new projects, ensuring that potential environmental consequences are identified and mitigated from the onset. Furthermore, advancement in flare gas recovery program have led to the substantial reduction in routine gas flaring, thereby mitigating greenhouse gas emission and improving air quality. Initiatives focused on waste management and spill prevention and response have also been strengthened, leading to quicker and more effective containment and remediation efforts when incident occurs. The implementation of stricter discharge standard for produced water and encouragement of production of oil and gas are also positive development that underscores our commitment to environmental protection. World Environmental Day serves as a powerful reminder of our collective responsibility to protect the natural system that sustains life. This year's theme, Advancing Sustainability and Climate Action in Upstream Oil and Gas Operation, underscores the growing importance of integrating environmental stewardship, emission reduction, and sustainable development in our operations. It calls us to reflect not only on the challenges we face, climate changes, biodiversity loss, pollution, but also on the opportunity before us to innovate, collaborate, and act decisively. It also a call for enhanced collaboration with local communities, which tradition, knowledge, and stewardship are vital for successful environmental management. We must foster partnership that ensure equitable benefit sharing and empower communities to participate in environmental monitoring and restoration. Our commitment must transcend compliance. It must be about proactive ecological stewardship. In conclusion, finally, today, engagement provides an opportunity to reflect on our progress, share experience, and identify practical pathways for advancing sustainability across the upstream sector. I encourage us to actively engage in the discussion, ask questions, and share perspective. Let us use this opportunity not only to learn, but also to inspire action within our respective space and sphere of influence. I once again welcome you all and thank you for your continued dedication to environmental stewardship. Together we can build a healthier, more resilient planet for present and future generations. Thank you all and God bless you.
Thank you so much, EC, for setting the tone for the rest of the conversations. This dovetails us right into the opening remarks, where you will hear about the regulatory leadership, more on our commitment to the climate, and also the Commission's strategic direction when it comes to upstream sustainability. To deliver those remarks, please make welcome the Commission Chief Executive of the NUPRC, Mrs. Orishemewa Eyesan.
Please be seated. Thank you. So thank you very much, Kechi, for that introduction. So my dear executive commissioners, esteemed colleagues, I want to believe that we have representatives of our partner organizations here or logged in virtually. I am delighted indeed to welcome you to this hybrid workshop to commemorate World Environment Day 2026 under the theme Advancing Sustainability and Climate Change in the Upstream Oil and Gas Operations. As we are aware, World Environment Day is the United Nations' principal vehicle for encouraging worldwide awareness and action for the environment. Celebrated annually since 1973, the day has served as a vital platform for promoting progress on environmental dimensions of the Sustainable Development Goals. With the United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP, at the helm, over 150 countries participate in the celebration every year. As the regulator, the Commission recognizes that sustainability and climate action are fundamental to ensuring long-term resilience, competitiveness, and social value of our hydrocarbon resources. The PIA in 2021 made salient provisions in sections 102 to 108 and sections 233 and chapter 3 on environmental management, environmental remediation, gas flare and emission management, decommissioning and abandonment, and host community development, which serve as critical enablers for entrenching sustainability and climate action in upstream operations. The challenge before us is therefore to balance energy security, economic development, and environmental stewardship. You will recall that about 3 years ago, when the whole world started aggressively on the energy transition agenda, we were all quite perturbed because it was indicative that hydrocarbon was now a resource strictly not to be touched. Today, the narrative has changed. Our mission is how do we utilize our God-given resources, ensure that we preserve our environment, and also utilize this God-given resource for our economic development. So the trilemma is what nations are all trying to solve for. Over the years, the Commission has taken deliberate steps to establish robust regulatory framework for climate action and decarbonization in the upstream sector. Key among these are the gas flare, venting, and methane emission, prevention, and waste and pollution regulations. The guidelines for the management of fugitive methane and greenhouse gas emissions in the upstream petroleum operations 2022, which provide the foundation for methane abatement and leak detection and repair programs. The implementation of the Greenhouse Gas Emission Management Plan and the Greenhouse Gas MRV Inventory reporting framework, which are strengthening emissions accounting, transparency, and accountability across the industry. In addition,
the Commission continues to advance the Nigerian gas flare commercialization program to deepen adoption of gas for domestic utilization while promoting the national NDC's commitment to eliminating routine gas flares by 2030. Furthermore, efforts are ongoing to develop regulatory frameworks to facilitate emerging low-carbon opportunities such as carbon capture, utilization and storage, CCUS, which is cross-cutting the NDC targets for the energy and industrial sector by 2035. The provisions of the PRA 2021 and the above initiatives aligned with Nigeria's climate priorities, including the NDCs, the target of ending routine gas flares, achieving 60% reduction in fugitive methane emission, and supporting the country's net zero ambition by 2060. Today's workshop provides an opportunity to reflect on progress made so far, exchange perspective with key stakeholders, and identify practical actions that can accelerate sustainability and climate action across the upstream value chain. The success of this journey will depend on strong collaboration. And for those of you who have encountered me, you know that is one of my fulcrums, collaboration, because you get a lot of things done by collaborating. When you compete, I think you lose out valuable benefits. Of course, there's a time for competing, but if you want to push agendas like we are pushing today, I think the sure pathway is through collaboration. And the collaboration must be not within the Commission alone, but among other regulators, the industry, host communities, development partners, and other stakeholders. At this point, I really want to commend the HSEC department for organizing this very important engagement. I thank our technical experts, the panelists that will be coming on stage shortly, and participants for the commitments to advancing a more sustainable and climate resilient upstream oil and gas sector. I want to wish you all a very productive and insightful session, and I believe that we will be coming out with very, very practical. Nkechi actually thought I was going to dish out all the goodies, but I think when we sit together and collaborate, we will be coming out with very, very insightful and forward thinking strategies to turn the curve for the industry. On that note, I say a big thank you to all of you.
Thank you, CCE, for those remarks that go to the heart of why we are here today. Another round of applause, please. All right. Did you know that before any field development plan is approved, the operator must have a gas utilization plan already put in place. And so gas monetization becomes a condition of entry, not an afterthought. To hear more about these regulatory data and the context of how the technicalities really work when it comes to climate, environment, sustainability, we are going to hear from our technical experts, the people who are working on this every single day. From the host community department of the NUPRC, please welcome Mrs. Emily Anyeze. She is an Assistant Director, Project Environmental Management Plan Administration. Please a round of applause until she gets to the stage.
Thank you. Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, EC. Permit me to stand on the already established protocol. We do differ in profession, ideology, political ideology, in beliefs, but there is something we do have in common, and that is the environment. We do share the environment, and it's part of what we do. Without wasting much time, we'll be looking at the topic before us today, and that is, okay? Are you changing this? All right, while we're trying to get the technical part of it, the topic for this webinar is very simple. We align with the World Environment Day theme, which is urbanization and climate change, building resilient cities for a sustainable future. Why the Commission perspective to this would be advancing sustainability and climate action in the upstream oil and gas operations. All right. It's not changing. Okay, thank you. All right, so the presentation outline is pretty clear, and we will be doing justice to this. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so this is the presentation outline. The presentation outline for us is very clear. So we'll be looking at, will you change it for next slide, please? Can I take charge? Okay, yes. So the first, in 1972, United Nations General Assembly designated June 5 for the celebration of the World Environment Day. In 1973, the ever first World Environment Day was celebrated with the theme, with the slogan, only one Earth. No, that's not a slide. All right. In 1988, the need for rotational, thank you. The need for rotational hosting was emphasized. While in 1992, at the Earth Summit, it was agreed that we need to reinforce sustainability development after the Earth Summit. In 2000, digital outreach was emphasized with the build of a dedicated website. While in 2026, we will be looking at climate action with the hashtag Now for Climate. About the World Environment Day. The World Environment Day is a global platform for environmental awareness, policy dialogue, and practical action. It simply does this, the 3 A's: awareness, action, and accountability. Why the 2026 focus is on urbanization and climate change, which require resilient cities, low carbon infrastructure, stronger emergency preparedness, and sustainable resource use. For the upstream petroleum sector, the World Environment Day is an opportunity to demonstrate environmental stewardship beyond compliance. The 2026 conversation connects climate risk, urban resilience, energy security, and sustainable development. Now, before this, we need to talk about the Sustainable Development Goal, which the CCE emphasized during her opening remark. And she said, she talked about the SDGs. But for us, we want to put a context to this. Before we talk about the particular SDG that speaks to this year's action, it would be nice for us to explain how we move from the MDGs to the SDGs. From 2000 to 2015, the MDGs were the focus. But the MDG was a bit different from the SDGs, simply because while the MDGs were 8 of them, the SDGs were 17. The MDGs focus on development, while the SDG is more robust and it is global, because it looks at people, planet, prosperity, and peace. That is what the SDG is all about. So these are just the various milestones on how we agree and we arrive where we are. And this SDG will be, the SDG will be from 2015 to 2030. All right, so the World Environment Day theme is on the SDG 13. But there's other SDGs that support this World Environment Day theme. And they are 7, 3, 12, 9, 14, and 15. Integrated actions across these SDGs accelerate a sustainable, resilient, and climate-safe future for all. Enabling policies. So we looked at the PIA 2021, which is the basis of why we are here today. We look at the Climate Change Act 2021 also, the Nigerian Upstream Decommissioning and Abandonment Regulation 2022, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Host Community Development Regulation 2022, Gas Flare, Venting and Methane Emission Regulation 2023, Upstream Petroleum Environmental Remediation Regulation 2024, Upstream Petroleum Safety Regulation 2024, and the environmental guidelines and standards for the petroleum industry in Nigeria. The EGASMI sets environmental standards for petroleum operations, pollution control, and monitoring. Why climate matters for communities, ecosystem, and operations. The way the communities in the Niger Delta are set up, they are within what we call low-lying communities. They are exposed, the coastal exposure, they encounter extreme rainfall, degraded buffers, and operational exposure. But we need to emphasize something here. Sometimes these oil and gas operations are sited within the remote locations. But with encroachment and water view, we are looking at the socio-economic aspect of it, and that brings about prosperity. But with the prosperity comes with the challenges that we encounter. So the Niger Delta climate risk profile is defined by interaction of natural exposure, ecosystem degradation, and industrial concentration. Impact of upstream oil and gas sector. We're looking at operational disruption, infrastructure damage, pollution risk, community hardship, and cost escalation. Lesson learned. We need to build, climate risk is a business continuity risk, an environmental risk, and a social stability risk. For us to be able to understand or put why we are emphasizing the need for us to build this risk in place, for those of us that have stayed in the industry, we will remember the 2012 incident within the Niger Delta region. And nationally, about 7 million people were affected, 2 million people displaced, over 2.6 trillion naira estimated damages and losses. The Niger Delta states affected include Bayelsa, Rivers, Delta, Akwa Ibom, Cross River, and Edo State. And what did this tell us? The flood exposed the vulnerability of coastal and low-lying communities and reinforced the need for improved environmental planning and climate adaptation strategies. What we do in the Environment and Sustainability Division, HSC, what we simply do is manage sustainability. I like the definition that my colleague, Success Sikbe of Port Harcourt Regional Office gave. Thank you. about sustainability. When the whole conversation on sustainability started, a professor was having a focus group discussion trying to explain the word sustainability, and he struggled. He tried to define sustainability, which is meeting the need of the current generation without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet its needs. He defined this repeatedly, meeting the need of the current generation without compromising the ability of the future generation to meet its needs, a professor. After much frustration, he saw that he was not passing home the message. And one of my Niger Delta brothers stood up and said, "Prof, do you mean chop today and chop tomorrow?" He said, now I mean. So sustainability is all about chopping today and chopping tomorrow. That is sustainability. And for us in sustainability, we look at environmental stewardship. What we do, we protect the environment through assessment, mitigation of impacts, and monitoring across our operations. We also look at sustainable resource development. We promote responsible exploration and production that maximizes value while minimizing environmental impacts. We do not stop there. We still go ahead to balance economic, social, and environmental needs. And how do we do this? We engage stakeholders and support communities to ensure our activities create shared and lasting benefits. We take it up from there. We ensure compliance and monitoring. We reinforce regulatory standards through robust oversight, inspection, and continuous improvement. All right. So to further explain this sustainability thing, I have a slide here that looks at sustainability across the value chain. I want us to pay close attention to this, and that would bring us home to what we do in HSEC. And what we simply do is that we try to understand that sustainability must be embedded across the full project life cycle, not treated as an end-stage compliance activity. All right? So what we do is that we look at sustainability from exploration, from design, development, operate, and restore, which is the decommissioning aspect. So we have embedded the various activities that help to support this. So we have the risk assessment approach, which is the exploratory stage. I will speak to those in detail in my next slide. So for us to understand this, we try to put those a little definition for us in terms of environmental value. So we reduce spills, emission, waste, water stress, and ecosystem disturbance. We also look at the social value. We look at stronger community trust, because we need to build that trust for us to have a social license to operate. Fewer disruptions and improved livelihood protection. Then the business value, because we cannot attain sustainability, we start looking at the positive, which is the economic part of it, and that is improved project bankability, operational continuity, safety of people, and investors' confidence. This is very key, and that is what the PIA promotes. As a sustainable upstream value chain, in all these, you see that the host community is carrying this, and that is why I said it is the social license to operate that is needed. We cannot have the business value if we don't have a good environment in terms of community harmony to do the business. So that is why you see that across the value chain, we have host community clearly represented from inception to decommissioning. A sustainable upstream value chain protects people, environment, asset, and future production. The Commission's role is to set clear expectations, verify implementation, and close compliance gaps. Yeah, this slide. I want us to take a moment to look at this slide. It seems very busy, isn't it? Yes, it is busy, because it speaks volume. All right? So we were talking about sustainability. We looked at it on a high level in terms of across the value chain. We're now looking at how we manage, how unique we are in terms of sustainability. How do we drive home the business by ensuring that impacts are identified at the design phase before implementation. So I would spend some time here to drive home this point. So it is closer to the project goal. Our process in the commission is closer to the project goals because EMP controls are embedded early, consolidated, and implemented through a cost-time resource basis. And EMP, I mean environmental management plan. All right? So I told you earlier, I'm going to spend some time on this slide because it is very, very important. So the NUPRC EMP process, which is same as the EIA process, because we can't look at the EMP if we don't understand the basis, which is the EIA. Because there is no EMP if there is no EIA, and there is no EIA if there is no EMP. The EMP is linked with concept selection, okay? Engineering design, construction, operation, and decommissioning, creating real opportunities for design mitigation and impact elimination. All right? I will try and make it simple. At the concept selection stage, why the ECSA and Madasu team are doing the engineering part, permit me, sir, to reference that. While they are doing the engineering part, we also play a key role in HSC. We look at the screening, which is a risk-based approach. We call it the environmental screening report. And what this does is this. It looks at the various concepts that are being considered in engineering. All right? So when ECSA is looking at the concept selection process, we are also looking at the environmental risks associated with concept selection. And we've had calls in the past to say that such concept will not take place because we do not agree. And the case in point is the AccuGas project, when in the days of the DPR, when we realized that the pipeline route has been established. Unfortunately, during the concept selection stage, a stage of the project, we realized that there was a shrine within that pipeline right of way. And you will be wondering, why shrine? Why is that a problem? It's indeed a problem, because we talked about the social license to operate earlier. So it is a key part. Why that may have caused additional cost to the project in the sense that we had to bypass that right of way. We looked for a means of achieving the goal without tampering with the shrine. Yes, the length of the pipeline was extended. The project cost was extended also. But what this did for us as the regulator is that it was able to establish industrial harmony and prosperity for both the operator and the regulator, the community as well. So that is what the concept selection does with the environmental screening. And we do not stop there. Based on the concept, the preliminary impact assessment will be carried out. And the preliminary impact assessment speaks to the concept at the preliminary stage. That means at the front-end engineering stage, looking at, okay, you can use the available data to prepare something. When you have frozen the concept with the submission of the FDP and approval of same, we move on to what is called the development. And I've spoken to the engineering design as well. So when we go to the construction, we're already doing EPC. We have field development approval without altering the process because impacts are mitigated before we commence operations. And all these are built into the design of the project. So that is what this slide speaks to. So from the concept selection to the engineering design, whether it's basic engineering design, the front-end engineering design, or the detailed engineering design, we play a key role. And we move on to the EPC project, construction, operations, and decommissioning, because the environment needs to be restored following the useful life of the project. So when we get to the end of the useful life of the project, we still build this in. And in all this, I may say, why it is the World Environment Day, there is a key aspect here, and that is the safety role in all this. The safety team also played, the safety branch, looked at the operational safety case. They look at the design, first of all, the operational and the decommissioning safety case. So we synergize and collaborate with the DMP and the relevant teams to achieve to ensure we achieve our aim. So the EMP embedded, I've spoken to that, and risk identification, design control, mitigation budget, monitoring, and close-out evidence. Continuous feedback loop prevents fragmentation, approvals, and duplicated environmental commitments. So design, mitigation, controls are introduced. Yes, I've said that. It is a consolidated process, and it is cost, time, resource discipline. Before I look at the concluding aspect, I'm going to look at this aspect, which is a fragmented approach. I talked about the consolidated versus the fragmented. For the fragmented approach, what are the impacts? Environmental controls are treated as separate late-stage activity. Project concept. Project considered after key choices. Engineering design. Design mitigation opportunities missed. Construction and operation, reactive controls. While we adopt proactive, reactive approach is being carried out here. Okay? Reactive controls and duplicated review, because we're doing what is called damage control. That at the decommissioning phase, the decommissioning plan disconnected from life cycle risk. Outcome, redesign, repeated reviews, and slower approvals. So we are closer to the goal, and while we are closer to the goal, we achieve a positive aim, and that is sustainable project delivery, predicted approvals, lower environmental risks, fewer redesign cycles, and efficient use of cost, time, resources. Next slide, please. NUPRC response policy initiative we've taken is on spill management and control. We're also looking at the spill aspects. Why it is not possible for us to eliminate spills, we try to put measures in place in terms of control. And what this does is this: irrespective of the quantity of the spill, we say in terms of the guidelines that all spills are reportable, but the outcome is what actually differs. So what this does is this: for every spill that takes place, immediately it occurs, within 24 hours, it's expected that the operator notifies the commission of this incident, all right? So it does begin with containment, recovery if safe, isolate source where unsafe, conduct joint investigation visits within 24 hours. Then, that is true with the use of the Form A. Then we have what is called Form B. With the Form B, it is done within 2 weeks or 14 days. These reports are submitted to identify the cause, the quantity spilled, and extent of environmental impact, because within 2 weeks you should be able to establish all this. And the third one is Form C, which is expected to be submitted within 28 days. Complete cleanup and repair work should have been carried out within 28 days. And if we need to conduct what is called a post-cleanup operation, we'll do that. We'll verify post-cleanup condition, certify remediation outcome, and initiate further, if there is need for us to initiate further remediation action where cleanup outcome is inadequate. And this we do through a risk-based approach. Core control measures. Spills cannot be totally eradicated, as I said earlier. They can only be controlled and reduced. Yes. Another policy initiative is the OSP contingency plan. And the OSP contingency plan, once again, we're looking at the aspect of scenario and action plan. And this we've done successfully with what we do as a commission, and I like how we adapt to challenges when the need arises. And a typical one is when we had the Niger Delta trunk pipeline was out of service due to vandalism, crew theft, and what have you. We quickly put in place alternative means, and this we've done once again with the EC, D&P team, and we do that with what is called badging. Badging requests, why we've conducted badging and tracking requests, we put another policy initiative that speaks to our activity by ensuring that while we are trying to put a measure to ensure a continuity measure for production, we do not lose focus on the environment. So this oil spill contingency plan, while it is done annually in terms of audit, we also applied it to what we do for badging, and it has created immense benefits. And for every evacuation that takes place, we also contribute to this. But before then, I will look at the benefit in terms of, so what is the objective? The purpose of operation is pre-approval to date, an actionable plan for preventing, containing, and responding to oil and gas hazardous substance spill within possible scenario matched to the most appropriate response strategy. So the objectives are very clear for the oil spill contingency plan. In line with the gas spill is to ensure that the environment is protected, also ensures that manpower, equipment, funds are available to effectively contain and clean up spills, and to ensure that good record keeping is maintained and accurate information concerning the spill is disseminated to the public and government. So we've tried to put this in terms of scenario base. You've seen the positives, which the objectives speak to, and the action base. And I've spoken to the benefit in terms of badging and tracking requests. So foundation for oil spill prevention and control, embedded prevention, preparedness, and response in HSE management system and operations philosophy. Another policy initiative, this is very, very key. Why this is key, the PIA, the authors of the PIA in their wisdom thought it through to put measure to cater for some incidents that are within or outside the purview of the operator. And what this does is just 3 objectives. The purpose is rehabilitation and maintenance of negative environmental impact resulting from upstream petroleum operations that are of undetermined origin, not attributable to the acts or omission of the operator, and not remedied by the operator responsible for the negative environmental impact. And the relevant regulation that speaks to this is the PIA section 103. So it provides framework for the establishment and administration of the ARF in line with section 102, and it's also source of funding for the rehabilitation and management of negative environmental impacts from upstream petroleum operations. So this also did not, the PIA also ensured that while it speaks to new licenses to have this in place, it also catered for the existing licenses in the form of OPL and OML. Okay? So you see that we have the OML, still captures this, and we've made remarkable effort with the ER and SP. So thank you, sir, for your support. Your team has been fantastic in ensuring the implementation of this ERF. Thank you, sir. Okay? Then waste management hierarchy. You notice that this pyramid is inverted. Look at the way it is, okay? So what we do, why the oil must flow, the business must take place, we also try to do something that the waste that are generated from our operations are properly handled. So we try as much as possible, where practicable, to reduce the spill from this, to reduce the waste from the source. So we do source reduction, prevention of waste generation if possible. Okay? So that is being used loosely if possible. Prevention of waste generation. Then we also try, when it is generated, it has to be reused where practicable. So the collection with little or no processing, that is for the reuse, as is for reuse. Then for the recycling approach, where source reduction is technically not possible or economically not feasible, we recommend recycling. And treatment is also an option. Unavoidably generated waste, yes, you have to treat your waste. Then disposal. unrecyclable in its current form. So the decision rule is this: move down the hierarchy only when the higher option is not practicable. I said that when I started this presentation, okay? And economically feasible. Hierarchy outcome: minimize waste at source, recover value where possible, dispose only as a final option. Prevention, reuse, recycling, treatment, and disposal. That is the waste management hierarchy. Then local trends in waste management in line with the regulation. So progressive tightening of waste discharge controls. We move, the regimes move from open discharge practices to limits, prohibition, and offshore zoning. I also pay a bit of attention to this slide, all right? So the uncontrolled discharge regime was enshrined in the 1980s. We did not have regulations that actually spoke to those at that time. But it was the toxic waste in cocoa in Delta State that actually, it was a root shock to us, and realized that we need to put measures for managing this. So we had low control at that point in time. Then in 1991 to 2000, the first guidelines was issued in 1991. We had the controlled discharge regime. In 2000, we moved from the control to zero discharge regime. Then current practice of discharges include zone-based offshore zone. That means when you are within 200 feet water depth and 12 nautical miles, you do this. We also ensure that re-injection where practicable. We use a pipeline corridor and badging. You see the PDDC is in red. Why this seems to be a non-compliance, but we put this in place to ensure that oil and gas operations are not interrupted. We make sure that whether you are within the shallow waters or not, discharges are permitted. Next slide, please. Okay, so the monitoring. So these are the measures to put in place: inventory and planning, operations and control, assurance and reporting, waste management plan tracking, and what have you. So waste inventory facility registration, we do this through approved contractors and compliance reporting. We also try to do this on an annual basis. Next slide. At this point, I welcome my colleague, Mohamed Ilo, to continue from here.
Thank you very much, Ma, and good morning. I'll quickly run through, next slide, please. Thank you, Madam Emily, for that passionate presentation. Mine is to run through what the nexus has been for climate change with respect to Paris Agreement that people hear about. So when you had people talking about the Paris Agreement, it has a global, it serves as a global framework that actually dovetails into all the initiatives that you've seen happening in the upstream oil and gas sector with respect to emission reduction, with respect to flare out. So this is the global outlook based on science. From 2005 to 2025 has been one of the hottest years in the world based on global temperatures. Global temperatures have averaged 1.5 degrees centigrade, and this has actually provided the need for us to see how to build a resilient infrastructure in terms of cities, and also review our energy systems utilization and sustainable operations that emphasize on sustainability. That also had affected the need for oil and gas operations to transition towards low carbon technologies. So globally, from the perspective of climate financing, there is need to raise over $4.5 trillion by 2030 for us to achieve the needed climate financings to intervene in mitigation and adaptation project based on analysis by the United Nations Development Program. And for us in Nigeria, based on the NDC 3.0 that was issued, it is estimated that about over $330 billion is required to finance Nigeria's NDC implementation. And the irony of it is when you look at the breakdown, domestic financing is expected to fund just around 20% of that fund, and the rest are expected to be earned through international financing, which include the carbon market and other financing framework. And the funding comes around as a form of either loan or concession loans. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay. Okay, so the Paris Agreement basically, essentially, is one of the central mechanisms that aim to achieve the global climate change goals of reducing maintaining global temperatures to well below 2.0 in terms of global warming. And the key vehicle that drives Paris Agreement implementation is the NDC, which is the nationally determined contribution. The NDCs serve as a central role where, under the Paris Agreement framework, countries develop climate change and mitigation and adaptation programs where they submit to the UNFCCC, and that serves as their key vehicle in terms of abatement, emission reduction, and also climate action as a country. And the NDC primarily works in a 5-year cycle where you identify what your circumstances are and define what you can mitigate at your own pace. And based on that, you start developing strategies to abate your emission reduction. It also have an accountability mechanism to the enhanced transparency framework where companies are expected to report their progress with respect to climate change action and ensure transparent reporting. So we will see how this ties into the programs that the Commission does as we progress. There is also expert reviews that are carried out to ensure that climate action is achieved. Next slide. Okay, so for Nigeria, we had done 3 cycles of NDCs, which is the key climate commitment that shows what a country intends to do and how they intend to achieve it and what are their challenges and how they can equally achieve emission reduction. So for Nigeria, and specifically for the upstream oil and gas sector, one of the key challenges that have been mentioned in the speech by the CCE is elimination of routine gas flaring and also reduction in fugitive methane emission by 2035 for the oil and gas sector. And that presents a significant potential in terms of emission reduction. So when you look at the slide here, you can see we can do from flaring mitigation potential of about 2 million metric tons per year, and for fugitive emission, 27 million metric tons per year. And for the energy sector, which the oil and gas belong to, is one of the major contributors to emissions. So it's essential that the energy sector drive national emission reduction in terms of NDC implementation, and that is why the focus on oil and gas, especially with respect to routine gas flaring. Next slide. So while we have the NDC doesn't need structured approach in terms of implementation. The NDC speaks to the global country climate action. So we require internal policies and strategies that can help us catalyze the implementation and actualization of those NDC's commitment. That led to the pronouncement of net zero by 2060 as part of Nigeria's commitment. And the net zero is basically saying you're netting off your emissions with removals. And then we have the Nigeria long-term low emission reduction strategies that is developed by the NUPRC in synergy with national stakeholders, and the Nigerian Energy Transition Plan. And also, to cap it out, I did talk about the need for climate financing. The carbon market activation framework is also supposed to serve as one of the policy enablers. And recently, the Nigeria Net Zero Investment Plan was also issued. So this is all tailored towards ensuring private sector financing and also attracting international funding to meet our climate financing need. Next slide. So for NUPRC, we did talk about key mitigation targets as it relates to oil and gas. One of those is the gas flare out and fugitive methane emission. This focus on the efforts that have been in place with respect to methane abatement. And you can see right from 2012, there is a provision in the IGASPIN under the gaseous point source emission monitoring that requires the need for operating companies to quantify and report their greenhouse gas emission, which include methane. And then in 2015, the first NDC, which was regarded as the INDC, that is the intentionally national determined contribution, was methane emission reduction were based on flare abatement. And from that was when the Paris Agreement was sanctioned and ratified by Nigeria. We had the opportunity to come up with the initiative of the Nigerian gas flare commercialization that bring about the first regulation with respect to gas flare regulation and supported the NGFCP program. And in 2019, we had the sectoral action plan, national action plan for short-lived climate pollutant, which also include methane, and it also defined some baseline parameters that help us in adding methane emission reduction target in 2021. And then in 2020, we issued the guideline for the management of fugitive methane and greenhouse gases in the oil and gas sector. So that guideline was the first, made Nigeria become the first country in sub-Saharan Africa to adopt a policy targeted as methane emission reduction. And that had come with a lot of benefits and also international support. And it also placed Nigeria at a very good light in terms of our efforts and commitment to climate action. Next slide. So with respect to the flare, Nkechi had actually given us some insight on where we were before, where we're flaring about 90% of our associated gas produced and coming down to under 8%, 8% of what we produce. And these are some of the significant progress that have been made. I think worthy of mention is the NGFCP, where 49 flare sites were awarded, and I think some of the companies have already commenced project concept and project engineering for actualization of the NGFC program. Next slide. So for the methane guidelines that we've been implementing, one of the key requirements for that guidelines is for companies to develop emission management strategies in the form of greenhouse gas emission management plan, where they spelled out what strategies they are going to adopt to reduce emissions. And on that basis, we've made this progress. This might seem, some kind of, we're not 100% there, but it's a lot of work that had gone through that, because there was need to bring the industry to the level of awareness and also need to get the technical capacity and competence that we need to understand it. Even within the commission, knowledge and understanding of this emission reduction is essential, because for you to regulate, you need to have technical expertise and experience and a global overview of what the best practices are compared to who you are regulating. While we also adopt the approach of working in synergy with the operating companies to see how we can drive a facilitative kind of compliance regime. So this is just a snapshot of our progress, just like the gas flare commercialization program. Next slide. And so while we do that, there are some challenges that are, of course, there in terms of implementation. And key to those challenges are the technology challenge is a major issue. And then we have the technical and capacity gap, which I have mentioned. But we've, over time, benefited a lot with respect to that. And we have local circumstances, which are also things that we have to consider as a country. And then financing and other constraint, energy transition. The CCE mentioned it in her presentation, in her speech, is a key issue that also pose a challenge with respect to what we do in terms of driving compliance. Next slide. So collaboration has also been key. We no need to emphasize that, but it has quite a number of arms that needs to be looked into as we serve as regulators of the oil and gas industry. Operators, communities, civil societies, regulators, and government. Next slide. So these are some of the partnership that we are on so far, and this has bring a lot of benefit with respect to our efforts to build capacity within the industry and also adopt best practice in terms of our emission reduction. We're currently working with the NUPRC, which is the focal agency for climate change in Nigeria, and the United Nations Environmental Program to convene the Nigeria Emission Reduction Project for methane. And we also have the Methane Alert Response System. So this is a satellite-based system that alerts us when there is a heavy plume of methane, and we reach out to the operating companies to see how they can mitigate that. I think last year there were about 15 notifications within the industry, and swift response were taken to abate that. And partnership with World Bank has been ongoing for quite a long time, especially in the gas flare space. And the Norwegian Energy for Development, we've been having engagement with respect to methane MRV, CCUS development, and other capacity building avenues. Next slide. Okay, so while we're doing that, data is essential to what we do. It's really, really essential, because whatever program that you've seen, without data, that program will not, you can't track the performance and what you've done. So what we've done internally is to see how we can scale up our Excel-based data reporting portals to a digital dashboard, which we've worked internally with the ICT team to support. This is still work in progress. As we get more data, we refine, work with the ICT team to refine and update. So this is where we are, and this is essential because the NDC had actually requested us to move from estimation-based emission reduction to absolute emission reduction approaches. Next slide. Okay, so Madam Emily, I think you do the concluding thought, or I should go ahead. No. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Ilo. Our concluding thoughts, we did tell you that we need to stress collaboration. We need to ensure that our data is actionable. And while we do that, sustainability and climate change are now central to upstream petroleum competitiveness. Project approval and social license to operate. So what we plan to do is that we've looked at all it entails in terms of sustainability. We need to move beyond compliance. Environmental studies, through relevant environmental studies, make data actionable, then deliver collectively. Call to action, and that is what this year's World Environment Day is all about, call to action. So our call to action is, let's build on progress made by strengthening resilient upstream operations. that protects the environment, advance Nigeria's climate commitments, and sustain responsible energy development for present and future generations. Protecting the environment is not a cost to development. It is an investment in the future. And if you think the economy is more important than the environment, try holding your breath while counting your money. With this, we say a very big thank you to you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Emily Anyeze, Mr. Ilo Mohammed, for that truly remarkable presentation. I'm sure that we now have a solid framework of where we are and where we want to go to. And now, just an announcement to our audience online. Please, if you have any questions for our technical experts, please drop them in the comment section. We are collating questions, and you'll have the opportunity to hear the answers to your questions a little bit later. Right now, we have a panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen. We have assembled a truly remarkable group of minds that will come up and give us a talk about the real-life issues when it comes to sustainability, climate, and environmental protection. The panel discussion is titled Multi-Stakeholder Perspectives on Climate Action in Upstream Oil and Gas. And to steer that ship, we have the Director, Environment and Sustainability at the HSCE Department of the NUPRC, Mr. Abdul Afiz Balogun. Please keep clapping until he gets to this stage. I will hand over now to Director Balogun, and he'll introduce our distinguished panelists. All right, so I will introduce the panelists. All right, this morning we have the Program Management Officer, Climate and Clean Air Coalition, CCAC, Mrs. Catalina Etcheverry. All right. We also have joining us Mrs. Ejiro Fondu, who is Director of Host Communities at the NUPRC. Also joining the panel, Engineer Anyao Janice, Deputy Director for Gas, Petroleum Operations and Gas Business Optimization. We're also going to have two technical experts to join us on the stage, Mrs. Emily and Mr. Mohammed. Keep clapping. We have an excellent panel. All right, so Mr. Balogun, I can hand over to you now. All right, fantastic.
I want that mic. Give me that mic. Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. The CCE, the executive commissioners, ably represented by Captain Tolaga, my management colleagues, and my colleagues, thank you very much for attending this special occasion. Quickly, I've just been informed that Dr. Kelechi Ufuegbu is going to join us virtually. So I hope the technical team have looked at the equipment to be sure that we can connect him when the time is up. So, you're all welcome.
I'm hoping that all of us are picking one thing or the other from this webinar so far. It's an important thing that we all need to do. It may be the last resort for some of us in terms of catching up with what the environment requires of us. Because it's not every one of us that's going to be lucky enough to have read ecology in school. Those of us who did that, or those who read courses that had ecology as an elective, it's a wonderful opportunity for them. They are luckier. Excuse me, my attention has been drawn to two other people. I'll bring out their names and introduce them quickly. From FGFCP, okay, FGFCP is going to be handled by our Dr. Kell. Multiple Development Consults Limited is giving us a personality. Oh, the name is not stated here, I'm sorry. This one, okay, they are just behind me here. Okay, Dr. Eugene Itua, the CEO of Natural Eco Capital. Then we have a round of applause for him, please. Thank you. Then we have Engineer Abiagom Ezioku. He's the head of GHG, CO, and management from Renaissance Africa Energy Company. That's it. Thank you very much. So, as I was saying, this may be a last resort for some of us. Some people, it is after they become a production manager, they realize what sustainability is all about. Before then, they have no clue. Some, it's after they become a CEO or something bigger than that. Even some, a contractor. He has won a contract to go and build maybe a flow station of about 50,000 barrels per day in a certain community. And his boy is calling from the field. Oh, they didn't let us work. They barricaded the place. And it's like, don't they understand what this project is all about? We are bringing so much development. If people, and maybe thinking maybe they are illiterates. You'll be surprised. Somebody who is an engineer like him will come and say, Mr. Man, stop that gra-gra. See, it's not as if you don't understand what you are bringing. But the itinerary for that money you are promising is so long. The destination is so far. And the return journey is not ascertained. So give us our own now before you go. So, and that's an important aspect of sustainability. That is the social aspect. You don't just say, because what you're doing is good, you just go into a community and do things without making them to be, aware of what you're doing. Let them see the benefits. So the economic aspect, the social aspect, then the third aspect of sustainability is that environment. You have to cater for that environment properly, such that at the end of the day, as I said before, you chop today, you chop tomorrow. If you don't cater for the environment, you may be chopping today, by tomorrow, there's no environment to even support agriculture or even support normal living, because you may pollute an environment to such an extent that government will have to barricade that place. Everybody go home. Everybody go away. Relocate to another place. So, coming back to today, the theme of the World Environment Day that we are celebrating currently, we will realize that as the theme moves from topic to topic, from year to year, currently it seems the burning topic is climate change. All of us are aware. Almost everybody can say one thing or the other, even non-experts, about climate change because of the central position it has occupied in our industry. So, why it is important for us to bring our minds together before we hear from our specialists is for us to appreciate that every little thing they are going to say here today is so important that we need to think about and take into our everyday operations. Otherwise, we may not get it right. If a country can decide, just like Nigeria, who has plenty of oil, and we say we want to benefit from this one, so we don't care about what it's saying about the climate change, I draw our attention to the latest danger. The latest danger that many people may not be aware of is that not only, even if the United Nations does not bring their army to come and block our fuel stations, block our terminals from producing, even if they allow you to produce that oil as carelessly as you wish to, do you know that recently Selling that oil is another ball game altogether. There are places you can't sell because they will say, if you have not met so standard of environmental quality, of climate change requirements, nobody's buying oil from you. That's the latest thing Europe just told us. So, which means for us to be able to continue to sell the oil as good as it is, we have to be responsible. It is no longer a case of good to do. It's a case of compulsory to do. Otherwise, you'll just be looking at the oil in your tanks and nobody is buying it. So, there's a special focus for this discussion. I'm going to, each of our specialists will give us an answer to a question for like 3 minutes. Sorry, we would like to give you more than that, but time is a constraint. So, thereafter, we can still have questions from the audience. But I'd like to mention what the discussion focus for this particular outing is. One of them is enabling policies and regulatory frameworks. Another one is practical challenges and solutions in achieving climate action. They're going to give us suggestions from their experience and ideas on how to go about that. They will also be talking about financing and technology for carbon footprint reduction. We also have gains from industry community collaboration in sustainable operations. We are lucky to have these specialists who have long years of experience in their respective fields. We go first for the United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP representative. The question for you, Ma, is from a global perspective, what role can international partnerships and enhanced measurement, monitoring, reporting, and verification, which we call for short MMRV. So we're asking, what role can all of that system play in helping countries like Nigeria achieve their methane reduction and broader climate commitments? Technical team, can you please connect her for us?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. This is Catalina. May I come in?
Go ahead, please. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. I represent the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, an initiative convened by UNEP, the UN Environment Program, and it's a partnership of more than 200 stakeholders that are engaged on a common mission. And this includes governments, of course, and intergovernmental organizations and civil society and research institutions. And we are working towards a common mission, which is reducing short-lived climate pollutants, including methane, black carbon, hydrofluorocarbons, and tropospheric ozone. Of course, methane sits at the heart of this agenda, as it is one of the most powerful short-lived climate pollutants, and reducing methane emissions is one of the fastest ways to slow warming in the near future. This is particularly relevant to the upstream oil and gas sector that is a focus of today's webinar. And the good news is that many methane reduction solutions are already available, proven and cost effective, as highlighted in Nigeria's methane abatement journey. Technologies for leak detection and repair, improved monitoring systems, operational best practices, and measures to eliminate routine venting and flaring are increasingly accessible and being deployed around the world. We are seeing countries like Nigeria moving beyond commitments toward implementation with stronger policies, better emissions data, improved measurement and reporting systems, technological innovation and enhanced cooperation are helping to make methane reduction a practical reality. But the challenge for us today is no longer whether the solutions exist, because the science is clear and the technologies are available and the economic case is there and is very compelling. But the challenge is scaling action. And how do we accelerate implementation quickly enough to achieve meaningful climate benefits? How do we strengthen institutions so that methane reduction becomes embedded in routine business practice? How do we mobilize investment build technical capacity, and create the regulatory frameworks needed to sustain progress over the long term. These questions underscore the importance of multi-stakeholder collaboration. And as we've seen, governments play a critical role in setting policy direction, establishing regulatory certainty, and creating enabling environments for investments. Regulators such as NUPRC are central, as we know, to driving accountability and ensuring that methane reduction objectives are translated into measurable outcomes. And we know that industry as well brings innovation, operational expertise, and the capacity to implement solutions at scale. The financial institutions help unlock investment, and civil society and research organizations contribute transparency, technical knowledge, and public engagement. And international partnerships, such as the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, can support all of these efforts through knowledge sharing, capacity building, and technical assistance. We are now seeing as well national structures providing building blocks towards a global architecture where preferential access to markets for near zero methane products may emerge, and where relationships between trading partners becomes increasingly important. This is where the Climate and Clean Air Coalition, a UNEP-convened initiative, seeks to contribute. As a demand-driven partnership, the Climate and Clean Air Coalition works with countries and partners to support science-based decision-making, policy development, technical assistance, capacity building, and implementation. We have been helping governments connect with expertise to facilitate peer learning, as well as supporting the development of methane action plans through our methane roadmap program, as well as strengthening emissions measurement and reporting systems and promoting the exchange of best practices across regions and sectors. In many ways, the coalition serves as part of the connective tissue of a broader global effort. We bring together stakeholders who share the goal of achieving practical, measurable methane reductions. And a few examples, just to finalize, is that we represent the Secretariat of the Global Methane Pledge. We have also created the Fossil Fuel Regulatory Program in partnership with the Clean Air Task Force to provide quick response mechanism to address regulatory and capacity gaps. And we have also launched the Methane Regulator to Regulator Network this year with IEA as part of the Global Methane Engagement Program.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So forth. Apologies for going over. Thank you.
If that's okay. Actually, your response has given us something like a follow-up question quickly. From what you have said so far, I think if our experts in climate change will bear me witness, there is almost nothing in what you have said that Nigeria is not already actively doing. And we have achieved plenty. In fact, we've looked at challenges and we've come back to improve those, and we keep moving. The one that concerns us is, for example, when the European Union suddenly came with a new list of conditions, different from what is known globally. So our fear now is, are we sure this program we are running is such that it's so transparent that everybody knows what to expect? Or suddenly, after we achieved one milestone, somebody is going to bring up another condition that we have to meet, and it becomes a case of shifting goalposts. What influence does your organization have to control such or to prevent such, so that you can have some form of confidence building in countries like Nigeria who are ready to participate and comply? I hope my question is clear.
Thank you. Perhaps I will try to respond as much as I can. We are now, the CCAC is a voluntary partnership, so we are not, we are not leading the EU regulations, but we can support countries in seeing how they can meet those requirements. And we are now exploring how shared responsibility is defined, as well as assured within trading relationships between importers and exporters. So we are happy to continue to support Nigeria in demonstrating their leadership. And I think where we add value is in supporting an enhancement of regulatory frameworks, as well as continuing to make methane measurable, reportable, and verifiable by supporting Nigeria with the appropriate MRV frameworks. And that is what I can say to that point.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. We have really benefited from your input on this, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking of how to redouble their efforts in meeting those compliance criteria that you have reminded us of. Thank you very much. Now, over to you, sir, the chairman of NGFCP, Dr. Kell. So the question for you, sir, is how is the Nigerian gas flare commercialization program contributing to both emission reduction and sustainable economic development? And what key lessons have emerged from its implementation so far? You have the floor, sir.
Very much, and I hope I can be clearly heard. Forgive me, I'm in transit, so I hope that I'm audible enough. But let's talk about the relationship between decarbonization and the environment. Decarbonization is at the heart of the climate action agenda, as well as, of course, of the environment agenda. And Nigeria has signed up to all of the obligations, whether local, national, and international, starting from the nationally determined contributions to the methane pledge, to the Paris Agreement, of course, the World Bank flare-out obligation, and of course, timelines as well. I'm sure that one or two speakers would have covered that in the course of their presentation. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, very well.
Okay. So, of course, our mandate was clear as far as decarbonization in the upstream petroleum operations was concerned. You need to produce smarter, cleaner, and more efficiently. And as far as gas production is also concerned, that every molecule that is produced efficiently and represents value to the nation, to industry, and to people in their respective homes. Now, our response to that as a commission, arising from our obligation in the PIA, was simple. We had two core mandates: ensure that routine flaring is ended, and also ensure that every molecule of gas is monetized, is commercialized for the benefit of the Nigerian people. So our response was the Nigerian Gas Flare Commercialization Program, the NGFCP, and that's what we call our flagship climate action and market-driven mechanism, which is globally recognized as the first government-led initiative for sustainable third-party gas flare monetization scheme aimed at eliminating routine gas flaring in line with all those obligations, both national and international. So in the course of this, of course, we relaunched the program in September 2022 and took it through the bid process up to the point of awarding the permits to access flare gas. I'm pleased to announce that in Q4 of 2025, we issued 27 licenses, permits actually, to 27 entities who are now at different stages of development, their early execution stages, their concept preparation, and all of that. And we've transitioned them from project to the D&P SBU, who will now steward their projects to completion. Now, I said it's the first government-led initiative in the world, and of course, that came with its own challenges. First of all, we have lessons, several lessons arising from this initiative. The first being that as governments, whenever we want to push policy, we need to be tenacious, we need to be focused about it. There was a unanimity of opinions and agreement by the operators that it is good as a climate action project to end routine flaring, but there was no agreement as to how it would be achieved. everyone seemed to have an idea as to what course of action they should undertake with a view to eliminating routine gas flaring or even monetizing their gas resources. But the government had to be tenacious about NGFCP to push our agenda in the manner contemplated by the project. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of resistance on the part of operators, but staying the course and staying true to the program philosophy helped us get past the finish line. That's one. Two, we understand that when projects are new, projects like this are nascent, a lot of hand-holding, a lot of stewardship, a lot of steering is required. So we made a commitment to the awardees and the operators that we're going to handhold them all through the process, standing shoulder to shoulder with them until they passed and across the finish line. And that's exactly what we did. So everyone who started the process with us, we had no clue, we had no line of sight as to how we were going to navigate this maze, but it was just staying true to the course that got us to the finish line. Thirdly, there's a lot of confusion as to what flare gas really is, because people couldn't really differentiate flare gas from the run-of-the-mill associated gas, NAG, the non-associated gas. And we had to, the associated gas or non-associated gas, as the case may be, we had to keep explaining to them that, look, your projects need to be bankable, but only based on the project architecture. In other words, today you could have 5 million SCOF, tomorrow you could have 6 million SCOF, the next day it could go down, depending on what production systems are, and projects are ongoing. So you'd have to be ready, and your solutions have to be tailored, along the lines of the flexibility and adaptability to the realities of the project and of your systems. So that's one more lesson that we learned in the course of this project. Okay. That people now have a better understanding of the flare gas regime, and so the solutions that they are tailoring to access flare gas and to convert waste to wealth, flare to fuel, and of course emissions to economic value has now improved, and that's why we expect an overall better delivery as stewarded by DNP.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
A round of applause for him, please. So we really appreciate what has been achieved by your committee, and in our own little way of contributing to your efforts, I can assure you that today more people have heard about your program, and not just people in this hall. We have many others online who will pick one thing or the other to take back to their various organizations and departments on how to join hands to make that program successful. Thank you very much. Now we move on to the next presenter. The question will now go to the CEO of Multiple Development Consult Limited. Now, the question for him is, given the growing focus on decarbonization, how can Nigeria's upstream oil and gas sector continue to support economic growth while contributing meaningfully to national climate action and energy transition objectives? I'm sure the question is clear to you. What we're trying to say is, how do we balance between struggling to be compliant on decarbonization efforts while at the same time making efforts to have optimal benefit from our, as Madam, our CEO called it, God-given resource. We want to derive optimal benefits, yet we have these continuously changing goalposts to align with. So what ideas can you give us on how to balance between those two so that we come back home dry? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Balogun. I hope you can hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you to the NUPRC leadership for convening this important dialogue. My name is Dr. Eugene Ichwa. I guess because it was misspelled. My surname has been misspelled, as you can see there. Instead of ITUA, you have ITAU. Maybe that was why Mr. Balogun didn't say it.
I'm sorry
As
about that.
the CEO of Natural Eco Capital and Executive Director of African Green Economy and Sustainability Institute, my life's work is to help shift Africa's green economy story from one of vulnerability to one of strength. From being seen as a risk to be recognized as a bankable investment destination. We operate as a do tank, not simply as a think tank, because our people cannot eat theory. They need measurable, investable action. And as someone who has helped shape Nigeria's long-term climate and development pathway, just to let you know that the long-term emission development strategy, I was the national lead for that. And of course, the long-term vision. I also co-led the development of the climate change bill for the National Assembly, which is now the Climate Change Act 2021. And good enough, ILO talked about the NDC. NDC, the implementation of NDC from 2015 to 2024, I led the stock take, which was done by Natural Eco Capital and my organization. And so from that hindsight, I can say with confidence that if we align the NUPRC's regulatory leadership with a long-term vision already embedded in our national frameworks, Nigeria will not only meet its climate commitments, we will enhance competitiveness, unlock social value, and then attract the capital needed for a resilient future. And that was what the chief executive said earlier. This is exactly why we came up with what we call the African Green Opportunity Index, to give regulators like NUPRC a clear data-driven map of where climate-smart investment should flow. Just to let you know that the world is changing fast. Oil's share of global energy consumption has fallen from 28% in 1990 to about 30% today. Looking at what the BP Statistical Review of World Energy, now Energy Institute Statistical Review, has said, you know this is one of the most widely used global energy data sets. But Nigeria's reality is different. Our transition is not just about emissions, it is about people. It is about a mother who still cooks over a fire. The young engineer is waiting for stable power to build a business. The communities that live beside flare stacks and dream of cleaner skies. So our task, I will tell you, is dual and deeply human. Reduce emissions and expand reliable energy access. Just to say that for me, NUPRC has already shown courage. Zero routine flaring by 2030 and a 60% methane reduction by 2035. The question before us is not whether Nigeria can do it. The question is, how do we turn our ambition into action without slowing down our economic growth or leaving our people behind? There are three pillars I'll quickly talk about. The first one is data-driven action and enhanced methane MRV. And good enough, the earlier speakers, Emily and Ilo, have spoken to this. The foundation of credible climate action is data integrity. Without accurate data, we cannot regulate, attract investment, or compete globally. And so, just to say that in addition to all that I've said, if we strengthen measurements, governance, and investments, alignment in this sector, we will accelerate natural progress, or national progress ladder. If we delay action here, the entire transition slows down as well. That is why the work you guys are doing is not just regulatory, it is a nation-shaping action. So in other words, for instance, you're giving a directive to move operators from IPCC Tier 1 estimate to Tier 3 measurements based reporting by 2027. That is a landmark decision. It tells the world that Nigeria is ready to play at the highest level. And good enough, your earlier intervention had brought out those realities. But some of the realities we want to recognize are the brownfield asset that we have. Aging infrastructure, high cost of advanced sensors. I think this is why the CCAC, UNEP, and SDN quantification initiative is so important. I see it as already shaping Nigeria from estimate to real measurement. And I do believe satellite, sensors, and advanced analytics are being used. Now we must scale this pilot. We must scale. And good enough, like I've said earlier, we are building what we call African Green Opportunity Index to help all of you. This tool will help, for instance, NUPRC, de-risk investment, and embed MROV requirements directly into field development from day one. Another thing is climate action as a catalyst or as an economic catalyst. We must stop treating climate action as a cost. It is indeed an economic opportunity. The Nigeria gas flare commercialization program shows what is possible when we get it right. Eliminate tons of carbon annually, attract investments, billions of investment, at least $2 billion of investment, and then create more than 100,000 jobs, generate nearly 3 gigawatts of power. This is what it means to turn waste into wealth. Good enough, Emily spoke about this.
Thank you very much.
But the opportunity is bigger. We have natural capital. For instance, Natural Capital Forum is ongoing now in Bangkok. And just to let you know that Africa's natural capital is worth $1.4 trillion every year. This is not a burden. It is the greatest economic asset we've got. Through CCUS.
Thank you very much.
Good enough. This has been talked about earlier. And then the last pillar I quickly want to talk about is the just transition through governance.
Okay, let's have it.
And community alignment. And so I think if we have all of this in place, certainly, my brother, we will scale. We will bridge the gap. No one will be left behind. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Eugene Itua, thank you so much. We see you are so passionate about what you do, and we are also appreciative that you too appreciate what the NUPRC has been doing and is doing, and the trust you have in us that you hope we are going to continue. Yes, that's exactly what we will do, because we have made up our minds that that oil, we must produce it. So whatever it takes for us to be able to produce and sell it and make good fortune from it, we will do. So we have an established system for managing environmental matters. That is not a problem. Thank you very much once again, Dr. Eugene. I'm sorry about not recognizing your company. If I quickly, I didn't know that was the name of your company. That's why I didn't call your name alongside with it. A round of applause, please, for Dr. Eugene Itua. Now we move on to the next discussant from Renaissance Africa Energy. So, and he's going to, the question for him is, based on your operational experience, and you have plenty, because that's the new shell, what sustainability and decarbonization initiatives have delivered the greatest impacts thus far? And what practical actions can the regulator and industry jointly undertake to strengthen compliance, address implementation challenges, and advance sustainability and climate action in the upstream sector, in which you are a veteran? Thank you very much. You have the floor. Engineer Abiagum Ezioku.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, all. Please confirm you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Yeah, thanks for that question. And I'll start by talking about what the vision of Renaissance Africa Energy Company is. Our vision is to be Africa's leading energy company, enabling energy security and industrialization in a sustainable manner. Like a lot of speakers have said, you can't gain traction if you don't have measurement. So I'd like to just mention that in Renaissance Africa Energy Company, all our facilities have measurement devices that measure our flare emission and also our fuel gas emission on a daily basis, and these numbers are assured daily and on monthly basis. The first thing that we do in emissions management in Renaissance Africa Energy Company is that on an annual basis, we carry out what is called the annual business plan. And the business plan is just to check where we are, what regulations we need to comply by, and what promises has been made so that we can set annual targets on this. Now, as we set the annual targets on a monthly, weekly basis, quarterly basis, we check our performance against those targets. Now, when we are setting the targets, we try to look out for opportunities to reduce emission, both in flaring, in the energy efficiency space, by incorporating maintenance best practices, and also in methane reduction space, where maintenance are carried out on flare tips, because methane sources can come out from flaring, from combustion, and from leaking, fugitive and venting. Another thing we do that has been spoken about clearly is that we align with national and global best practices. A lot has been said about the NGFCP, and Renaissance is fully aligned on the NGFCP, because the NGFCP is going to provide a lot of opportunities in routine gas reduction and also in employment, because we're going to give power to players who will help to industrialize the nation by the projects they are doing. I'd like to also mention that Q1 this year, Renaissance and the Commission had a workshop in Lagos with JV partners, and that workshop is what is making us to move on together. Like the leader of the NGSP have said, that we're holding hands, shoulder to shoulder, to get to finish line. Internally in Renaissance, we have a steering committee that is working with the vendors, and these vendors have all visited sites. Some vendors have even started clearing sites. We're working together with the vendors to understand their progress, and any escalation goes to the NGFCP. Again, the importance of methane in global emission tackling cannot be overemphasized. To get to the Paris Agreement desired goal of 1.5 degrees Celsius, we need to ensure that we tackle methane. And Renaissance, again, like I said, we are aligned to what the Commission is doing. The NDC requirement of 60% reduction by 2025, we're working it. Again, happy to announce that Renaissance have joined the Oil and Gas Methane Partnership. The earlier speaker, Mr. Balogun, talked about market access. And the only way you can have market access is to show traction in your tracking of your methane emissions, your reporting, and your verification for methane. Again, the OGMP 2.0 will provide Renaissance with the opportunity to work with experts in the knowledge of methane management, such that you'll be able to carry out your source emission measurement timely, carry out your site emissions measurement, do the reconciliation, and incorporate new emission factors into your system. And from there, you now plan to tackle your methane emission to zero, to as low as reasonably practicable. The last thing I'd like to talk about is our operational practices and innovation that has happened in Renaissance, despite the short time we have existed. Apart from routine flaring, there's a dedicated team in Renaissance that ensures that our operational flaring is also reduced. We have targets that will take us to best in class in compression system availability, such that the compression system does not trip. But machines will trip. But as a learning organization, any trip is cascaded inside the organization, such that the learnings is embedded and we avoid repeat trips. The system is also making local technicians to be able to manage compressor issues. And in our project space, the project delivery is such that there's also abatement embedded in project. the number of flanges counts are reduced so that you don't have fugitive methanes coming out. And also we're leveraging on using solar to run well-lit panels in Renaissance. Lastly, in the innovation space, happy to announce to the House that in April this year, I don't know, maybe some people already know, Renaissance now commissioned 5 EV charging stations in our industrial area. This was the brainchild of some young people, and a lot of people are tied into it. They're encouraging people to go and buy EV cars. The charging is currently free. I'd like to end this discussion by saying that if we don't do anything, the effect of climate change will be with us. We're doing a lot so that, because nature itself does not argue. Nature will show itself by telling you, by giving you the heat stress, the drought, and also nature just shows itself, so that we have to work with nature so that we can manage our climate and environment better.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. Up to the extent that you are not just maintaining the ideology in the workplace, you're actually taking it home to each of your staff, encouraging them to buy EVs as their alternative to petroleum use. That's very good. We hope you also give them extra allowances to be able to do that. Thank you. So we've learned a lot of things from what you have said, but what I can say personally is that while instead of giving us just one thing that is special that you have done, what you have been able to confirm to us is that almost everything you need to do, you have been doing well. All those aspects are the special areas that you can say have helped you in achieving your stated goals. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Engineer Abiagum. A round of applause for him, please. So we move on. We're coming back closer home now. And that makes me excited, because our directors that have been working assiduously to support the oil and gas are now being told to let us know what they have achieved. I could have spoken on their behalf, but I'll let them speak for themselves. So, Mrs. Ufondu, that you know very well, is going to take the next question. So, we also talked about the aspect of socials to make the tripod of sustainability to be stable, to be well balanced. So she has been managing that for us since the PIA finally added a systematic community interest management program into the law. So we want to ask her, how has the Host Community Development Trust, which we call HCDT for short, how has that framework strengthened environmental stewardship and sustainability at the community level? And what opportunities exist to further align host communities with Nigeria's climate goals? Thank you. A round of applause for her, please.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, so with the PIA, we have the objectives that was given to us by, am I audible?
Yes.
I am.
Okay.
Okay, so the one of the important objectives of the host provisions of the PIA is sustainable peace. And I like the definition that came from Success Ikpe as delivered to us today by Emily. Chop today, chop tomorrow. I like that definition of sustainability, so it drives home the message. Now, with the implementation of the host provisions of the PIA, one drastic thing that has taken place is a reduction in spills. One of the trusts, the HCDT, whether I say trust or we say HCDT, it's the same thing. One of the trusts, for the past 2 years, they've not had a single spill. Wow. Third-party interference spill. This is an area that used to, please, our communities deserve, the round of applause. This is an area that was very, very hot. They used to have a lot of third-party interference incidents. For the past 2 years, there's not been a single spill, because the people have come to the realization that we are all connected together. If there's a spill, if someone goes to cause a spill and there's a hydrocarbon released into the environment, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for people, it's bad for fishing, it's bad for agriculture, it's bad for development, it's all bad. So that's one of the key things. The second thing is we support climate resilient infrastructure. Now for the developmental projects, we go for a design that allows a lot of natural lighting and also good aeration, which will reduce the need to have a lot of air conditioning. For example, for the town halls, we go for designs that allow cross ventilation and a lot of lighting so that they can support themselves, and also approve for them to have solar panels to power such places so they don't have the need for generators. So we typically don't approve diesel powered generators. Then for the common areas in the communities, of course, we go for solar panels, solar lights for the streets, the market areas, the common areas, so that whether it's during the day or at night, people can move around freely without fear of darkness. So those are part of the things that we do. And it's important, when the CCE was talking, and almost every other person who has spoken today has mentioned the issue of partnership, which is very, very important. So we need because the second part of the question was talking about what can be done. We need more people to partner with the trust. The trusts are independent entities that have been registered by the Corporate Affairs Commission. Apart from the 3% that is stipulated by the PIA, the trusts are open to receive support in the form of capacity building. To that effect, there's a capacity building workshop that's coming up next week with the National Assembly and communities in Port Harcourt. So a lot of capacity building is required. Support also in the form of development. We have a lot of funding organizations that support sustainable development projects that are not necessarily initiated by the settlers. So we also need a lot of such support. Support from NGOs. We have a lot of NGOs that have a lot of projects that support development in the communities. Then support from governments, state governments, local government, support from the legislature, support from everyone, because we are all part of the environment, and everything we do in the upstream starts and ends in the community. So it is in our common interest for everyone to have that shared relationship and that shared partnership to support development in the communities and to support the environment. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much. A round of applause for her. That was concise but loaded. Even I have learned some new things. I didn't realize that you actually go into such details in looking at what projects get delivered to communities to be sure that you are the ones looking out for them, so that their projects will not be things that maybe the future standard will come back to condemn as not compliant with climate, systems. Thank you very much for that. And I'm sure staff also have also learned one or two things about the possibilities that the PIA has created. And that became easy and possible because we are lucky to have somebody like her to manage that. I can remember very well, like about around 30 years ago, when she used to wear plenty of jeans to go to the communities, to go and fight one spill or the other, to go and investigate one thing or the other. So all that experience has been brought to bear. Thank you so much. We appreciate. And I'm sure Dr. Itua is also hearing on the other side. From what Mrs. Ufondu said, you have realized that your expertise is not reserved for only companies like Renaissance who are very rich or NUPRC. From what she said, we are looking out for a lot of partnerships for the communities to have experts that can guide them on different areas. Either you're bringing the expertise or you are bringing even more finance. It's all welcome. So please put that in your jotter and work on it. Once again, another round of applause for Mrs. Ufondu. Thank you very much. We move on to, last but not the least, Engineer Janice Ayan is not somebody that you are just knowing. He's one of our smartest, and we are very proud of him. Specifically, he has worked with me before, so I remember those days. We wore the jeans together in those days, going up and down in the fields. So he has a lot of experience in environment aspects. Now, he is the Deputy Director, Gas Petroleum Operations and Gas Business Optimization. So with your combined experience from the environment and from the engineering, we want you to help us with this question. What operational and regulatory priorities should Nigeria pursue to build a cleaner gas value chain that meets evolving international requirements, including the EU methane regulation, while safeguarding the competitiveness of Nigerian gas in the global markets? Thank you.
All right. Thank you, my boss. You just said it. Maybe some 20 or 20-something years ago, I worked with you. Well, I would like us to step back a little bit to be able to dimension the magnitude of what is at stake. I mean, it's a common knowledge that Nigeria holds about 215.19 trillion cubic feet of gas in terms of proven gas reserves. And if we consider the contingent resources, we have an upside of about 600 TCF of gas. That places Nigeria as #1 on the continent of Africa in terms of reserves holding. As of today, we are producing about 8 BCF per day on average of gas. Why are is this statistics important? Well, it tells us the story that Nigeria is hugely endowed with this premium resource, which we call gas. But the value of this natural endowment is not realized if the gas remains underground. Gas must move from the ground to the market. And that's where the challenge comes, okay? And that is why we say that gas is at the center of the energy security of the country. Gas is at the center of Nigeria achieving its ambition of being a gas-based economy. And of course, also securing and holding its place in the global gas market. And that is why there has been a number of initiatives by government and critical stakeholders in the sector. You probably hear about the decade of gas. You've heard about the NNPC gas master plan. You've heard about Dr. Kell speak about the Nigerian gas flare commercialization program. And currently, the Commission is also working the National Gas Development and Production Strategies. So all of these are geared towards valorizing this premium resource that we call gas. It means we want to get gas out of the ground and take it to the market. And so for us in the Commission, climate change or environmental sustainability and gas development are not competing objectives. For us, rather than competing objectives, they are actually mutually complementary pillars, for our energy security, our energy transition trajectory, and also when it comes to sustainable and responsible resource management. So for us, the priorities that we must set in place to ensure that our gas remains attractive in the global market is to ensure that every molecule of gas that is produced is developed sustainably. It is measured accurately, it is utilized efficiently, and it is monetized responsibly. And so, what are we doing as a nation? And what are we doing as a regulator to ensure that our gas value chain meet this criteria that I have mentioned? The first one is that we have a broad-based regulatory framework, the PIA. But the PIA has provided the basis for us to then issue regulations. So as Commission, our duty is to then issue regulations and regulatory instruments and guidelines
that aligns gas development strategies with climate responsibilities. If you listen to the presentation made by Madam CCE, she listed among others the gas flare venting and methane emissions regulation 2023. So that is one regulation issued by the Commission that ensures that we are aligning gas development with our climate responsibility. What does it do? That regulation prohibits routine gas flaring. It sets an ambitious target of eliminating zero flaring with a vision of achieving that target by 2030. It provides for the Commission to set gas flaring threshold for all flaring facilities, and we do that biannually. So every January to June and July to December, we set flaring threshold for all flaring facilities, meaning we are putting a cap on what is considered permitted flaring. And that is even with the payment of fees. And when you flare beyond that threshold, then you get to pay penalty. The intent is to deter routine gas flaring. But beyond that, another thing that the Commission is also doing, which the country should also pursue and continuously improve, is the area of transparency in measurement and metering. You know, it is said that what you do not measure, you cannot manage. When it comes to methane emissions or emissions management, measurement is key. You talked about the EU methane regulation. This regulation and similar other frameworks are key and big when it comes to measurement. If you're not able to measure accurately and transparently, then you're not going to be able to get the needed credit, for the emissions reductions that you have achieved. And so as Commission, we have mandatory requirements for physical grade measurement of flare sites. I listened to when our friend and partner from Renaissance say that they have installed meters in all their facilities for measurement of flaring, right? Flare volume. That is because the Commission has driven that compliance. We had set out to ensure that every facility where gas is flared has a physical grade metering to be able to account efficiently the volume of gas that we have. And beyond that, beyond measurement, one other thing that we do too is to ensure that every field development has a gas utilization requirement assessment. So you do not begin any field development without having to demonstrate to the Commission that you have a concrete plan for gas utilization and commercialization. So by enforcing all of this, we are demonstrating to the global market that Nigeria is ready, that our gas is produced by reducing emission or reducing emission intensity, and therefore making our gas attractive for them to purchase. So we have actually set things in place, and we continue to refine these ones to ensure global competitiveness of our gas to the global market.
Thank you so much. A round of applause for him, please. Thank you very much. So he has brought our attention to things we may have been taken for granted, which actually count, especially on that, what I would call the troublesome EU surprise that we talked about earlier. So everybody needs to know that our gas is good for the market, because we are not just resting on our oars. We can continue to improve how we produce that gas, and even the oil. So things like this, a forum like this is one of the benefits. A lot of people can hear and spread the message that, oh, Nigeria is doing a lot. Actually, we've received some accolades on this before. It's just that we have to keep on improving what we're doing. Thank you very much, Engineer Ayon. Another round of applause for him and for the entire team of experts that have spoken to us. Now we have question time, and I'm hoping we can finish that within 10 minutes. And the question will not be limited to just the later presenters. The first two experts that presented to us, Madam Ayezi Emily and Mr. Ilo Mohammed, are also included. If you have any question related to what any one of them has presented, or even outside of it, that is generally released. Okay, the online, is that what you're saying? Okay. So it is time for you to do that now. Is she going to help us to facilitate that? Okay, please come up.
So we have some questions from our audience online. The first one is from Usman Mohammed. How can Nigeria balance increased hydrocarbon production with its climate commitments under the Paris Agreement? So would you like to go over the question one by one?
I'm going to leave that open, really, so that whoever has something to say from this panel of experts can say something. Ilo, you have something on that? Or from the team that are online? Ilo, if you have something on that, can we have it?
Get the last part of the question.
All right. How can Nigeria balance increased hydrocarbon production with its climate commitments under the Paris Agreement?
Timely payment. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that. I think from the regulatory framework and the structured policies put around the oil and gas exploration, especially with the pronouncement of gas as the transition fuel for Nigeria, we are already positioned to increase and balance that production with climate commitment. So for instance, the Energy Transition Plan had set up target for fugitive methane emission to 2050, and it set up a target of 95% reduction in that amount. And let's not forget the key market that is being targeted for the gas. The methane is the major component of natural gas. So it's a product in itself. So that's why the technologies drive the policies with respect to flare commercialization are all aimed at enhancing our gas utilization and deepening gas adoption in terms of our industries. And that's why we're having the CNG initiative, the clean cooking initiative, all are geared towards deepening the adoption. So rather than releasing it into the environment, we're making beneficial economic use on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, Engineer Ayan wants to add something to that, please.
Important to also say that what is critical with respect to our commitment to Paris Agreement or to similar such commitment is about, the discourse is about net zero. I want us to have that context. What is net zero? It is plus and minus, right? What does plus mean? You're increasing production, hydrocarbon, but the minus is you are also extracting carbon. And so how are we achieving that? Think about it. We increase our production, but we reduce flaring, okay? There are carbon capture initiatives that also extract carbon from the atmosphere. So there are programs that allows us to, while increase production, we at the same time are reducing our emission intensity. And by that we're achieving our goals and our commitments to the climate change.
Thank you very much for that addition. I'm sure you have more.
Right, thank you so much.
If the questioner wants to specifically direct their question to any of the experts, it's also okay.
Okay.
But go ahead.
All right, so the next question from Ajie Ifeanyi. How do we retrofit informal settlements, slums, for flood or heat resilience without replacement? Should I take it again? Okay. How do we retrofit informal settlements / slums for flood or heat resilience without replacement?
Did you hear that? I'm not sure.
Informal settlement, you said?
Yes.
Informal settlements. Okay, so because of the term informal settlements, it's not to be something that is going to start and end with NUPRC. We're going to need the state government, because NUPRC is not responsible for cities, for communities, doesn't own the land where communities are sited, whether formal or informal. So we're going to need partnership with the state government, partnership with the local government, and to be able to work walk through that. Some communities, formal communities, have lost lands. Some have lost entire streets to coastal erosion, for example. Okay. Then for the informal settlements in the industry, we've had a phenomenon of a situation of encroachment into right of way. Okay, that also is a form of informal settlement because they involve people and they involve communities. Like I said earlier, it's not something that the NUPRC can do from the beginning to the end without the right partnerships with the structures of the formal communities. All communities have leadership structures. They have youth, they have women leaders, they have traditional rulers, we have local government chairmen, we have legislators at different tiers that are representing the formal communities, and we also have the state government. So it's something that is that needs to be done collaboratively with those entities and not just NUPRC.
Thank you very much. You want to add something quickly?
All right, so thank you very much, Madam. I'm very pleased with the context Madam put into it, and that was the aspect of encroachment, okay? Why the collaboration is required, we can't eliminate that in our process. So what we do, we design a robust sampling rationale in line with the mechanism that have been put in place by the Commission, that the people, okay, during such project design come in. So we look at, in terms of the environmental space, what are the environmental components that would affect, because the project has to be factored in to ensure that the people are protected. So the sampling that we do when we conduct our studies, we bring in the people, they are being embedded into the design, and when we observe those settlements during the operational phase of the project, we try to make sure that the monitoring aspect, which is the environmental compliance monitoring, form part of what the companies submit to us. So what they do is that the ECM takes into cognizance emissions, surface water monitoring, groundwater monitoring, soil, amongst others. So we factor those in because some of them are unavoidable. Thank you.
Thank you very much for giving us another perspective to that question.
Experts, we have another question. What incentives exist for operators investing in methane reduction technologies?
I didn't hear that. It's like there's echo
Again?
between you and us.
Okay.
Can you come closer?
What incentives exist for operators investing in methane reduction technologies?
Did you hear that?
Yes. Yeah. So I think this goes both ways. Even the NGFCP and the gas flare commercialization aspect will definitely talk through that. So majorly, in one of the slides, we shared the carbon market framework as one of the enabling levers. Because while we understand there is cost implication in funding the technologies to reduce emission, there is also incentive mechanism that has been put in place through the provision of the Article 6.66 of the Paris Agreement, which introduces the carbon market framework. So Nigeria have developed the National Carbon Market Activation Framework, and internally we are working with the NUPRC to see how we can give letters of no objection for companies that want to undertake emission reduction. So for instance, you're going into event project, methane monitoring sensors that will recover the vented gas and use it for adding national value, for economic value. You can claim carbon credit through either regulated markets or other open markets that are readily available. So those letters that we give, and also the which is being handled by the carbon management team of the DMP, and then the letters that will be given out by the National Council on Climate Change will help you to access that carbon credit.
Thank you.
So those are the incentives.
Thank you, Mr. Ilu. I actually want from online, Engineer Eugene Dr. Otua, to say one or two things, maybe one sentence on this aspect, because I've been hearing you a lot in different fora talking about incentives. Are you still with us there?
Yeah, I'm here. I didn't pick the question.
Okay. Maybe
can you hear me?
We can repeat
this. Talking. Okay, can you give us one or two sentences on that? Then we'll come back to Madam Catalina also from UNEP.
Sorry, I didn't pick the question.
Okay, Dr. Eugene, if you can hear me, the question is, what incentives exist for operators investing in methane reduction technologies? Did you get that?
What incentives exist?
Yes, for operators who make efforts to comply to climate change requirements in one form or the other. What are the incentives? Most likely, I know you're talking about financial and maybe operational support incentives.
Okay, operational, okay, in terms of, I think generally, you have, depending on those behind the, first and foremost, the regulatory incentives. I would like to take it from there. First and foremost, what does NUPRC give to organizations that voluntarily comply? There should be some level of incentive. I want to take it from home. There should be some level of incentive. If we do not have, then we should be able to create something like that. And then two, you also have different organizations that are supportive of those going green. They are there if we search for them generally, there are organizations, and a number of them tilt the incentives to what they want to see. And some of them could be providing technical support. Some of them could be outright financing. It depends on how it is structured. So we can provide a list of such to you that you could share with the participants at the end of the day. I think I'll just leave it like that because you said I should just make one or two sentences. I'll leave it like that.
Thank you very much. Please, Ms. Very Catalina, are you there? Do you have one sentence or two to add to that on incentives for those who are willing to make the effort to comply to one aspect or the other of climate change management? I know Dr. Kell also will have something for the NGC. Hello, are you there? Catalina? Dr. Kell, yes, I knew I would have something. Can you please give us your perspective, sir?
Okay, thank you very much. So one of the things that we realized early on in the project is that this has never been done before. And so we needed to create a value proposition out of this and try to infuse support mechanisms which then translate into incentives, not just for the awardees who are making the investments, but also for the operators who are going through a forbearance process because ordinarily they lay claim to the gas resources and that they should be first past the post as far as developing and utilizing their gas resources are concerned. So the very first thing that we did was to create what we call a college of awardees, where we brought together financiers, technology service providers, from around the world to first of all, pitch to the awardees as to what technologies are available and also to get them to provide those technologies at discounted rates for our awardees. So that's one of the first incentives that we deployed in the program. And the operational support that, the awardees are also getting from the commission, not just from the project team, but from DMP as well. That translates into significant savings for them because even things that they would have required consultants to do, we have taken on board ourselves as a project team, and we've done for them, free of cost. So that's something else that we've done for them. And again, for the operators, one thing that we're working on right now is we've sent a proposal to higher authorities to create a sort of moratorium for the fair penalty payments during the pendency of the project construction. So within a period of even 2 to 4 years, depending on the project schedule or the NGFCP's project schedule, such that the operator that should have ordinarily paid flare gas penalty in that interval is then given a moratorium not to do so. I think that's a very significant incentive for them not just to invest in their own gas utilization projects, but also to cooperate and bring projects to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kell, for that. So we can go on and on to talk about incentives. They are there, both from the international arena as well as from NUPRC. You just heard about the commercialization program, what Dr. Kell has to say. So let's just end it there. We can talk to us in NUPRC more if you have more, if you are more curious, we want more details. We'll be glad to give you that. Can we have just one more from online so that we can listen to people?
Okay, just one more question. This is a long one. I'll come close. We have our final question from Hakeem Oluwafemi. Given NUPRC's planned transition to IPCC Tier 3 measurement-based reporting by 2027, is the Commission considering a mandatory independent field audit program, such as periodic third-party LDAR inspections, to verify reported methane emissions and validate operators' reduction efforts? Are we good on? Okay, thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Yes, so the provision of section 4.0 of the guidelines for management of fugitive methane emission had actually made that provision that during the first year of coming into force of the guideline, operators are to adopt tier 1 and then move progressively to tier 2 and 3 of the IPCC. So what we did was, during the course of implementation, we noticed there is quite a gap, especially among some of the local players. So we give them the opportunity to say, okay, come to us and tell us how you plan to progress. And then 3 years down the line, we see there is some level of capacity that has been built and awareness has been achieved. And having that in the guideline, we needed to issue out that policy to also position the industry towards the potential of the EU methane regulation directive of saying companies have to achieve OGMP gold standard, which is also a measurement base, but it's also technology intensive. And so that was what we did. So the provision for third-party verification is also part of what the guideline provided for. So operators can either do their measurement in-house, then every 6 months they have a third party to do a verification of that. And part of the requirement is also we join them in the field to do a kind of validation for those elder campaigns that they are currently doing. I think we have about 25 companies that have shared their schedule for this year. So that is there. But what we're also trying to create is to see how we can have more of this third-party verification consultants in country, because most of them are actually out of the country. So we have few that are making effort to get the relevant permitting from NUPRC. So we have added that to the OGSP provision and also created a kind of assessment requirement for those companies that want to do that. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Do we have any questions in-house here? We have one. Please bring the mic to this place. And thank you, Ilo, for giving an area of expo for our retirees so that I can go into another line of business. Instead of having foreigners coming to do this for us, we can have some of our retired people doing it. Thank you. Go ahead.
Yes, thank you, dear panelists, directors, SMEs. Thank you very much for this insightful session. I'm Engineer Chidinma Mwabweze. And my question will go to the subject matter experts and probably Dr. Kelechi for what his team, the good work that his team are conducting and going on. So my question is, given the heavy reliance on Nigerian economy on hydrocarbons and the continuous high demand for petroleum products, some things they say they are easy said than done. So I would like to know the very practical steps that the NUPRC are putting in place to move the operators beyond this incremental reduction in emission to a truly transformative stage where we can actually say that we have seen the drive that we are looking at, especially the drive for the zero methane emission of 2030. How do we move them from just reducing it to attaining that zero level in terms of redefining their project economics, in terms of tweaking their operational models to align with this zero methane target of 2030, which is just 4 years from now, without compromising the energy security. I mentioned that we have heavy reliance on petroleum products, so without compromising the energy security and safeguarding the investors' opportunities of investment in the sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stella, for your question. Well, I think we have tried to show what we have been doing or what we have done. If you saw the presentation by ILO, you saw that we have reduced gas flaring, for instance, from a time when it was 90% of total gas to today when it is just around 7%. That is a huge impact. That's a huge reduction, right? And we have also continuously implemented an increasingly tighter flaring thresholds on flaring facilities. Now, why do I talk about flaring? Gas flaring is a huge contributor to methane emission, right? In fact, if you're able to eliminate gas flaring, I think my colleagues, ILO, would agree that you probably would have eliminated 60% or thereabout of methane emission. Because in flaring, you have unburnt methane, sometimes due to unlit flares or due to inefficiency of the flare stack, right? Not achieving the required destructive efficiency, or combustion efficiency. So the point being that with the regulations that we have in place, it's a trajectory, and we are moving in that direction. And that is why the narrative in the global space is transition, energy transition. So I believe truly that we can give it to Nigeria, because again, when it comes to metering of flaring, even countries such as Norway are not as stringent as we are. We have other provinces that produce oil, like Canada. Some of them do not meter flaring offshore. But in Nigeria, metering is compulsory no matter where it is. And that is because we want to achieve transparency and reduce uncertainty in emissions measurement. So my point is that I think that if you do an assessment of what we have done as a country, we are in the right path and we're moving towards that trajectory. And where we are today, we may achieve the net zero. Remember again, I told you that it is not zero emission, it is net zero, meaning as you emit, you also extract. So if you're able to balance what you emit with what you extract, which carbon capture, for instance, would help us to achieve a mileage on that, we will be able to continue to produce and increase our production
while sustainably, withdrawing and extracting this deleterious impact of emission to the atmosphere? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, can I?
Oh, it's okay, right. Dr. Kell, please. I'm told you raised your hands. Please
okay,
go ahead.
So, yes, because Chidinma asked me the question as well. So, when it comes to energy security, you know that that's achieved based on energy mix. And of course, gas is a veritable part and source of that energy mix. So what we're doing from an NGFCP perspective is to ensure that every molecule of gas, that was once flared, becomes a source of energy, value, and operational resilience. And because of course everyone knows that gas is power, gas is life. So all the traditional utilization of gas and gas resources, so whether that be LPG, LNG, CNG, all of the solutions that our Ds have proposed fall into all of these brackets, even as virtual pipelines, modular solutions, all of this. So there's nothing different from an NGFCP perspective that our Ds are going to do, different from what the mainstream gas producers are also trying to do with their gas molecules. So at the end of the day, like Janice has also said, on the one hand, we're ensuring that decarbonization occurs and that we're not releasing more than we're extracting from the environment. But on the other hand, to assure and ensure energy security, like you said, we're also focusing on the gas utilization products that our project is meant to deliver. So at the end of the day, every molecule that was once flared but is now put to use, that's value proposition to the to the citizens, to the nation. There was a World Bank report that stated that we flared as a country 16 billion cubic meters of gas in 2024 alone. That translates roughly into $1.5 billion that we lost as a country. That also translates into circa 3,000 megawatts of electricity that could have been generated from that volume that was flared. Now think about if we convert that amount of flare to a value proposition, that will of course ensure our energy security. Chidinma.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kell. We really appreciate that. So I think maybe we should just use one analogy to look at this. Okay, we say have one, no more, thank you. We may need to use one simple and commonsensical analogy on the case at hand. Oil production, Nigeria did not start oil production after the law about climate change was already existing. Nigeria was already producing before the law came. So look at it as a case of somebody who has a sickness. When somebody is sick, maybe he has some pathogen in his body. He meets the doctor prescribes medicine. That medicine is very effective for the germs in his body. But can he just swallow everything at once so that the whole germs can die at once? That's the desire of everybody who is sick. Let me just swallow everything. So if you do that, something bigger than the sickness will happen. So Nigeria is already dependent on oil and gas so much. You can't just go ahead and give such stringent conditions that every investor will just run away. We are back to zero ground. In fact, the president of this country, when he was campaigning, he was faced with this same question. He gave a popular analogy by saying that Nigeria should just jump into total compliance with climate change is like telling a church rat not to eat the poisoned communion. There's plenty of logic there. A poisoned communion, of course, can kill the rat, we all know. But this is a rat that has been there for several days, maybe weeks, without food. So he has he's lucky to finally find one communion in one corner of box. And you are saying, don't eat it, it's poison. You have to have some negotiation. So what if I eat it small, so that I can be drinking water, so I will not die immediately? Or for me not to eat anything, that's not possible. I must eat. So that's the situation we are. We cannot stop oil production, and we cannot comply 100%. But what we actually do not realize, which this panel of experts have brought our eyes to, is that Nigeria is actually doing very well from what I've heard from this direction and from online. So what we need to do is more advocacy. Not just advocacy to make more people to come and comply, but advocacy on Nigeria is doing well. That will help us to sell more gas if you do that kind of advocacy. If you need information, talk to these gentlemen and ladies. They'll give you more of it wherever you go, any fora. Let them know that Nigeria fully understands what this climate change is all about, and we are doing a lot to make sure we comply. And we have surpassed so many countries in Africa, even some. Norway is not a small country when it comes to oil and gas, but from what the engineer just told us, we surpassed them in some aspects also. So that advocacy about what we are doing actively and incrementally improving upon, I think is what we should be talking about. If we do that, then we will be able to achieve the essence of our involvement. And that is, that same advocacy is the reason for today's event. And for that reason, we are thanking you. The organizers will probably finish this up, but let me also thank all of us in advance. From Dr. Kell, from online, who spoke to us about the great achievements, in fact, what I would call miraculous achievements of NGFCP, because before people thought that it's just not possible. If companies, former Shell, Chevron, the rest of them were saying that this gas is too small, we can't do anything with it. Yet, the NGFCP came and people performed wonders. And we're not just caging the gas, but we're making money from it. That is a miracle, as far as I'm concerned. It's an engineering miracle. So he gave us plenty of insights on what his team has achieved. We thank you very much for that job, and we also thank you for informing us about it in this forum. We talk concerning also, yes, Mrs. Ufondu beside me there, she told us a lot about what we are doing in community aspects to make sure that the communities are not left alone. Not only are we creating avenue for them to make money, we're also guiding them on how to use that money very well, so that it will be future compliant. We have Catalina H. Very from UNEP, who also spoke to us about what the international community expects of us. Dr. Eugene Itua was also very good. He's a private concern. So if we say we've heard so much from official national sources, what about hearing a perspective from non-official, non-governmental organization? That's what he represents, and he gave us quite some insight. Thank you very much. Engineer Young has been very, supportive in making us appreciate also how NUPRC is not just resting on its arms, but doing a lot to make sure that that decade of gas that sounds like a slogan is really monetized so that we can feel it in our pockets. Thank you very much. Engineer Abiagum was also very good in letting us know that big companies, although he's making us to feel that his company is a small one and a new company. No, sir. It's not a new company. It's not a small company. You took over what Shell was running, and you are running it well. So we thank you for that. We also thank you for making us know the perspectives that you have concerning climate change management. What have I not spoken about? Oh, my home girls and boys, thank you very much for your perspective. Elon knows more than me about climate change. I won't lie. Anytime he talks, I listen, I hear. And there's plenty that he has accumulated on knowledge. Madam Emily, thank you very much for making us to appreciate that HSC in general and the environment in particular is not just one organization there. We are doing a lot to make sure that what will make our operations sustainable is what we think about all the time, we do all the time. That's the reason we wake up from our beds every day to come to office. So please, if you want to know more, feel free to talk to her and to any one of them here so that we can appreciate what we are doing to make sure that NUPRC is a future compliant organization. So on that note, I'll hand over to the moderator to finish it up. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you so much.
ACHSEC is there. Please, I didn't talk about you. He's the father of the day. He's the major celebrant. Thank you very much for making it possible and for the guidance you've given us, the support you've given us to make this happen. We can never forget. Thank you so much. Another round of applause for DC, please.
And also, thank you so much, Mr. Balogun, for moderating this panel with so much depth, so much precision. A round of applause specifically for HSEC department. Thank you so much. Please, our panelists, if you indulge me, just stand up. EC, please, if you can join them for a group photograph. Thank you so much. And as they're doing that, if I may call Mr. Kingsley Ehiagwena, he's going to give us the vote of thanks this afternoon.
Okay, good afternoon, and distinguished attendees of the World Environment Day 2026. I've been given this mandate to do the vote of thanks. And firstly, I want to thank the CCE. I want to thank her for our presence here today. I want to thank the executive commissioners. We had DMP, we had ERSMP, we also had the Finance Executive Commissioner. I want to also thank our Executive Commissioner, Health, Safety, Environment and Community, Captain John Tolanga. I want to thank you all, our directors. Thank you very much. The esteemed panelists for the insightful, well done, deep knowledge that we have received this afternoon. Thank you so much. And also want to thank also the partners that joined us from UNEP. I want to thank Dr. Eugene. I want to thank everyone that have made World Environment 2026 worthwhile. Our esteemed colleagues, those online, thank you so much for your time. Our colleagues presented here right now, thank you for your time, for your support, for your contributions, for making World Environment Day 2026 a huge success. We look forward to a better World Environment Day in 2027 by the grace of God. So on this note, I want to say thank you very much for every of your contributions, every of your time. Look forward to World Environment Day 2027 by the grace of God. So thank you very much, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, for all that you have done to make today's ceremony a huge success. Thank you, God bless you, and see you in 2027 World Environment Day. Thank you very much and good afternoon.
Just a quick thank you to everyone that joined us virtually, everyone that engaged and asked questions and dropped comments. Thank you so much. We've come to the end of this commemoration of World Environment Day 2026. Ladies and gentlemen, please, lunch is ready. Before you step out, make sure you have some lunch, please, just by the left side of the hall.